Gunter Glieten Glauten Globen. Haha, what is up, metal fans and hard rock fans and Def Leppard aficionados? I know all of you are as excited as I am because May 27th, the brand new Def Leppard album will be dropping. Diamond Star Halos. Cannot wait. We've had two awesome singles that have dropped, which are Kick and Take What You Want. Yes, for those who have been writing into me and us, I will be doing a review, so patience. Once the album drops, I'm going to give it a fair listen. But I'm so excited for this one. Believe me, guys, if the first two singles are anything to go by, I'm sure we're in for a treat. So with that, I thought in a lead up to the album's release, it'd be fun to do this kind of a video, look at all the album sleeves and artworks. And yes, I am including retroactive in this, but I'm not including greatest hits albums and live albums and reissues. Just the main 13 studio albums which are there. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so kicking things off at the bottom of the list, number 13. Yes, you guessed it. It had to be X, unofficially known as X and officially known as 10. I get what the band was trying to go for here. They wanted something simplistic in terms of its design, something that stood out from a distance, something that you could easily recognize. But given how much Def Leppard has been so strong about visuals and their aesthetics and their graphics and so on, this felt like a real letdown. So this falls at the bottom of the list for me. Even as a record, you guys know my thoughts on it. But just sticking to the artwork right now, this album actually came in two versions. So where you were in the world, it actually either had the white background with the black X or the black background with the white X. But take what you will, this falls at the bottom for me at number 13. Okay, and the next one is Euphoria. So obviously a lot of fans were not happy about this, considering the fact that this was the third installment in the IA trilogy, the naming trilogy of Pyromania, Hysteria and Euphoria. This fell flat. I know a lot of fans are not very big on album artwork, but for many of us who are, this felt, a little lackluster. And given the fact that it was Andy Airfix, if I'm hopefully not getting his name wrong, rest in peace, good man. We miss you and thank you for your contributions. The thing is that this particular album artwork and sleeve didn't really feel like a very completed thing. It sort of felt unfinished in many ways. And the thing is that, of course, you got a nice holographic one, which was only available in the UK when this album came out in 99, where if you kept moving it, the lights behind kept moving in a pretty interesting fashion behind the logo. But even then, it wasn't something that really stood out in a big way, and it sort of felt like, a lot more could have been done here to really encapsulate the spirit and energy of the album. So yeah, so this comes in at number 12. Right, and coming in at number 11 is the artwork for the self-titled album, Def Leppard. Now, obviously, this is nothing really so substantially different from what came before. It was fairly simplistic like the other two. It has shattered glass with the band's logo. Not really much going on. I mean, I know a few guys who like this, who say that, from a distance, it looks kind of interesting, just the way the colors play out. And I know some of you might say, well, what colors? It's pretty muted in that sense. And I would tend to agree with you a bit more because it doesn't really say all that much. It's pretty plain, nothing really great and special about it, but I would still feel a little bit better than what was on X and Euphoria. So coming in at number 10 is Songs from the Sparkle Lounge. Now the thing about this record was that I love the concept, I love the idea of what they were going for. If you look at it very carefully over here, you'll see many pictures of the band during different stages of their career when they were very young to where they were at present when this album was dropped in 2008. You see a lot of pop culture icons there. You see the band's parents as well. It's a nice tribute which is there. You can see one which has, I think, Marilyn Monroe holding up that sign which says "This is not hero." And you have, I think, if I'm not wrong, his name is Richard Hammond from Top Gear. I think he's over there. So if you look on the towards the bottom right, you'll see a photograph of him. So there are a lot of little details sprinkled across this image as well, the Statue of Liberty and so on. But I think while as a concept, it was really interesting and good, very neat, I was not a fan of, the font that they use for actually writing songs from the Sparkle Lounge. And I think something about the execution fell a little short. So it is good, interesting, but not epic. And I wasn't too big a fan of the pinkish looking Def Leppard logo, if I could call it that. But yeah, still pretty interesting nonetheless. And oh yeah, and Mutt Lang is also featured in there. Try and guess where he is. So that comes in, guys, at number 10. Okay, now this might be interesting for a few because while I wasn't too big a fan of the Covers album, I did really like the visual style that they actually use, in the CD booklet and the actual artwork. I just kind of like this vibrant yellow and this sort of, you know, uh, I don't know, like acid feel to it, if I could really call it that. This sort of bleeding of color, which is all across, just showing the five of them, just standing over there with the signboard, the light bulb signboard of Yeah behind it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of thought it was interesting. It's in a bit of a warehouse where they actually, I think, did the principal photography for this. So pretty interesting. Not much else, but kind of stands out in a nice way to highlight the band. So this comes in at number 9. Okay, so things are getting interesting, and next we come to the album Slang. Now, why is Slang a little higher? Because Slang actually is interesting on a few levels. Now, you guys know that this is my favorite Leppard album. Of course, now let's see how Diamond Star Halos is and where that ranks, and I will definitely revise my ranking of albums once I have given that album a fair listen. But coming back to it, you can clearly see here that Slang isn't just one image of, which is sort of like this maroon and blood image with the face behind it. You can actually see, as I mentioned in my review, if you look carefully at the artwork, you'll notice this, sort of, a stencil kind of drawing of a Buddha, which is there. If you look carefully at it, you'll see it. And it's a pretty large image which spreads across the face. And you also have these ones and zeros, which is kind of like, computer code. So maybe this album came out in 96, right? So this was ahead of the Matrix. So I don't know, maybe they foresaw the Matrix movie or something. I'm just joking, of course, but pretty interesting. In fact, if I remember correctly, in the album booklet, you had a finger or a thumb, and they had that design of the same ones and zeros going across it. So it looked pretty cool. A kind of simplistic but a very interesting font style. It was obviously the first album to use a very different Def Leppard logo. They've not used it since, but Slang came at a time when the whole musical landscape had changed, so they wanted to try something new. And it obviously has that blue third eye image there, so for those who understand Eastern philosophy, it's something that just sort of depicts the third eye. So yeah, pretty cool. Kind of like the vibe that this thing had. And in fact, if I remember correctly, Joe said they chose this because at the time when this was shown along with a few other potential cover art images, they were recording Turn to Dust, which has that sort of East Indian Eastern feel to it with regard to the instrumentation. So they just sort of felt it kind of tied in. So yeah, so this comes in, guys, at number 8. Right, so next we have High and Dry, and I just realized something, that this actually landed kind of on the same spot as my ranking of albums, but not, I don't know, coincidentally, I don't know. But anyway, this is a phenomenal record, as we all know. But just coming to the artwork itself, Joe has mentioned on several interviews that he had heard that this was a rejected album sleeve for Pink Floyd, one of their albums, which they got and they liked and they used. It's obviously a play on the word or the album title or the song title, High and Dry Saturday Night. So it shows a guy just diving into what looks like an empty swimming pool. It might be full. If you look carefully, it seems full. To some, it seems empty. And you have these few guys who are looking up. In fact, I've read this somewhere that people say that if you take a step back, it's almost like the faces become spots and the black jackets become like just sort of blend in. So it kind of looks like leopard skin, like an alternative version of leopard skin in a way. Now, I don't know how true that is. I can sort of see it, but you guys let me know what you think. Either way, it's a pretty iconic sleeve. A lot of people recognize it. A lot of people know it. Pretty popular, and of course, to many people, this is their favorite Def Leppard album. Each has their own. So for many, this is something that stands out in a big way. But over the years, I've grown to really like this album sleeve a lot. So yeah, so this comes in at number 7. And the next one is Adrenalize. So what's interesting about this is that most people assume that it is an electrified globe with sort of white lightning coming out of it. But truth of the matter is that it's actually the pupil of an eye, and it has all this lightning, flashing across it. And the main thing is that if you look at the album title, Adrenalize, it's kind of like power up, to charge up. So it's to sort of say like these superhero movies or cartoons, where this character is getting all charged up. So it's kind of like that. It's sort of reflected in the bit of the music as well. And the interesting thing is that if you look at the top left, you may catch a glimpse of a familiar item. That is the viewfinder, which is from Pyromania. So just the outline of the viewfinder is found on Adrenalize. It's found at the bottom portion of Hysteria. It's obviously on Pyromania, and it is on one other album, which I will come to in just a bit. But it's usually a pretty synonymous item with the band, obviously for graphic art and so on. But this is a very interesting bit of artwork. I like the colors. The colors are very vibrant. That white, really shines through. And I think overall it was just a nice step in the direction of what they could have chosen for this. Even though, promo stuff, the merchandise and all that which had it. Very interesting. So Adrenalize comes in here at this spot. Okay, and then we have Retroactive. Now guys, I know many fans love this artwork. Why? Because if you look at it, it's a two-tone image. Either you can see it as a woman sitting at a table with, her perfumes, and it's sort of got this Victorian feel. It's like a darkened room and so on. So obviously you have the some, sort of clouds in the distance and so on. So maybe she's sitting in an open field. Pretty bizarre, I guess. But if you step away and look at it carefully, the image overall forms into the shape of a skull. So the candle forms the nose, her head and her reflection form the eyes, and so on. The bottles form the teeth and so on. So pretty interesting. A lot of guys love this. A lot of guys like the blue logo as well. And something that definitely stands out in a big way. So this comes in at number 5. All right, so then we come to one of the most iconic album sleeves ever. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Pyromania. And just as I mentioned for the Adrenalize piece, this one is where you have the prominent viewfinder. Obviously the exploded building, really depicting what the whole album was about, especially I think tying into the song Rock of Ages. So if you guys want to check out my review of this, please have a look and let me know your thoughts. Love to hear from you. Thanks to the guys who have always responded and shared their thoughts as well. But coming back to it, the Pyromania art design was, as I said, very iconic. It really stood in a big way. Love the graphics. It's simple, but yet it's so detailed. It has a lot of interesting, elements in terms of the color and the overall design. And even if you look at the word Pyromania, you can see the O has still got the viewfinder symbol over there as well. So this definitely is top notch, and for me comes in at number 4. And coming in at number 3 is the new album that's about to drop, the latest in the Def Leppard discography, Diamond Star Halos. Wow, oh wow, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, just look at that artwork. That is really something. I mean, just the way it's done. I mean, this is obviously the second time that the band has used a kind of black and white tone. The last time, of course, being with the album X. But over here, I mean, just look at how intricate this is. I mean, you even have all these little innuendos and references to, other songs and albums from before. And you remember when I was mentioning that on the, obviously, Pyromania, Hysteria, and Adrenalize album, you had the symbol of the viewfinder? Well, there it is, right in the center of this on the eye. So, in fact, the viewfinder would be a nod to the album Pyromania, the eye a nod to the album Adrenalize, I assume. The gentleman who's you can see diving into the lake, the Mystic Lake just below that, a nod to High and Dry. On the left you have what looks like bolts of lightning, so maybe a nod to White Lightning. Just above that, a lady who's got the snake around her, so maybe a nod to the song Women. And just above that, on the top left, you have this what looks like a playing card, and then it looks like the image of a skull, so maybe a nod to Retroactive. And you have these diamonds and stars layered across the top. So I don't know, between the way it's positioned and the numbers, whether that's got something to do with some cryptic code or not. But in case it's not, fine, but I'm sure I would just love and I cannot wait for the band to actually do an interview that could actually just talk about all of this, really detail what all of these little references mean. I think even in the inner artwork and album sleeve, we're going to get a lot more art. Like I know, for instance, the countdown clock that had images of the band members, when they were making those predictions, when all of us guessed that a new album was on its way. For those of you who caught the countdown clock and the Diamond Star Halos website, so things like that. And yeah, I think overall it's pretty fascinating. Maybe you guys have actually figured it out, some of you, so I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Do share what you think it might be. In fact, as a last guess, if you look on the bottom right, there's this kind of jug which looks kind of like a wine jug, so maybe a reference to me and my wine, perhaps, and the moon sign that's above that, maybe a nod to On Through the Night. I don't know. This is just wild guesses from my part, nothing's confirmed, but love to hear from you guys. And aside from this stellar, black and white image, obviously with the classic band logo, you also have this, which is the colored deluxe version or limited edition version. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments below. But I know quite a few folks who who want to get this. But all in all, between the two, I kind of lean a little bit more to the black and white imagery. But that said, I cannot wait, and this artwork is stellar. So this comes in at number 3. Right, and coming in at number 2 is a personal favorite of mine. I mean, obviously I love most of the album artworks for sure, but this is a personal favorite, and I've always loved this image, of the starry night, the moon in the background. I always thought of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon whenever I saw it. I know it's not the same, and it's definitely a bright moon for sure, though, but it always reminded me of that. And especially when you think about the album tracks, look at that, universe type sky, not to the song Satellite, and that guitar sticking out the back of the trailer, like Get Your Rocks Off and Wasted and It Don't Matter and so on. Think of tracks like that, and just seeing this semi, coming straight at you, it's so well drawn. I've attempted so many times when I was, much younger to try and draw this. And credit to the artists as well, whoever did this. If you guys know, let me know in the comments below who that was. But I've always loved this imagery, and I've loved the original Def Leppard logo, which was in fact referenced. And this is really where the design, which has been used on every album except Slang, of course, since, before Slang and after Slang. This is the classic logo, and this triangle was referenced on the Hysteria album as well. The red triangle that, cuts across, the 3 screaming faces. So I've always enjoyed this one. It's been one that, I've always held in high regard. And I definitely think it's something that is very recognizable for sure. So this comes in at number 2. And coming in at number 1, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's any surprise here. For most of us, we regard this to be the definitive Def Leppard album cover. The one that is innovative, is unique, has so much of color and tone, and the design of it, the mix of emotion with the 3 faces in the middle, to the kind of rocket ship control panel and lights in the background. I mean, it is just so well put together, and credit to Andy Airfix for doing this. I mean, the kind of things that he was able to come up with was phenomenal. And I think what is even more interesting, which is something that someone sent to me a little while ago, is this. Look what the band, the management, and the record label decided to do. They cut up the album cover and had each part as the sleeve for each of the singles that were released from the album. So if you look at each one of them, it's pretty unique, and it sort of, actually, when pieced together, forms the entire image of the album. So can you imagine back in the day when this came out and you were going to the record store and, able to get the singles as they came out and, fit them all together? That really would have been something. I really wish I could get my hands on this still. Hopeful. Maybe one day I will. But for right now, I just enjoy the album for what it is, and I enjoy looking at this and even the new, editions and anniversary editions that they've been releasing. Those are pretty cool as well, so do check them out. But all in all, this well earns its spot as number one, his stereo. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to know what you think. This is the way I would rank, all the album sleeves put together. Can't wait for May 27th. And as I said, I will be putting out a review. Would love to hear from you. Till then, you guys take care and rock on.